Hey guys, welcome. This is the walkthrough for building and creating MetaGorilla using MetaHuman in Unreal 5.6. I'm going to try and run through it as quickly as possible. I'll fast forward bits that are a bit boring and try and leave out all the junky parts. Overview though, we're going to prep our custom MetaHuman mesh. Then we need to wrap the base mesh to our source mesh. Import into Unreal, configure our custom MetaHuman, customize and adjust, and then final assembly and do some fun stuff like testing. So we have this great gorilla mesh that I want to turn into a MetaHuman. The issue is that the topology does not match that of a MetaHuman topology. First thing, we need to prepare our MetaHuman mesh. So we're going to start in Unreal. There's lots and lots of tutorials about how to get MetaHuman running in Unreal 5.6, so I won't go into too much detail, but the basics are you need to go to the plugin manager. Up here, I would just type in MetaHuman and load pretty much everything that says MetaHuman on it. You don't need all of them, but better safe than sorry. Some are experimental, so you might get a little bit of an error. Yes. Don't need that one. One of the things that you do need is the MetaHumanCreator core data, which you can get from the load screen. I'm going to restart this now. Okay, now that Unreal's back open, we're going to go to the launcher so you can see where to get the MetaHumanCreator core data. So here in the engine versions, we want to see 5.6.0. If we hit this drop down next to the launch button and into options, you scroll here and see right in the middle here it says MetaHumanCreator core data. Tick that guy and then you will automatically, and once you apply, it will download the 5.52 gigs, which I already have, so I don't need that. I'm going to close that down. Right now all I'm doing is creating a base mesh for my custom MetaHuman. I'm going to create a MetaHuman character. I'm just going to call this char for character. I double click on that guy and voila, here is a generic MetaHuman. I'm going to go to the body and check out I'm actually going to go to the presets, and I want to find a big thick body like Dominic. He'll do. There we go. So I'm going to use Dominic as my base for my MetaGorilla. I'm going to turn his clothes off. Come down, hit. I've got to download textures so I can build him. Just download the 2K textures. Keep it simple. And once all that's done, I go to assembly. It says character is not rigged. Yes, I do need to create rig character. I don't need any of this rigging. All I want is the mesh. But to get the mesh in Unreal the first time, you need to go through this process. So now I have my MetaHuman. I'm just going to go back into the Create tab, the Creator. Sorry, while I'm sipping on my coffee. And I'm going to push out the assembly into DCC, being Maya, and I'm going to use the MetaHuman to Maya plugin. So with the Creator open, we're going to head over to assembly, change the assembly to DCC export, find where you want to save it to, somewhere where you'll remember. Select the folder and hit assemble. Now that I've done that, I can save all this. So now that I'm in Maya, I'm going to go to settings, plugin manager, and I'm going to search for the MetaHuman plugin. sometimes you get this error where it says embedded RL4 is out of date, which is the Quixel Bridge plugin, and that sometimes conflicts. So if you just unload that, you don't have to worry about that at all. We go back to MetaHuman loaded and close that, and now we have this MetaHuman shelf up here. And if we just go to Character Assembler and we search for where we saved our guy, which is just here, you select the top level folder, should come up with a thumbnail, but it doesn't. So we're going to hit assemble. We're going to import the MetaHuman into Maya. Just going to close that down, and there he is. There's our guy. There is our MetaHuman. Now we only want the mesh. We don't need any of the other parts. So we want the head mesh, we want the body mesh. So body, head. I'm just going to duplicate those, unparent them. Just for good measure, I'm going to delete history, and I am going to unlock all of their all the translates and bits and pieces. The rest of this I'm just going to delete. Don't need any of it. Lights off. Oh, hang on. That is our MetaHuman topology, which is going to be our base mesh for everything else. Head, body. Now we want to take this mesh and we're going to wrap that around our gorilla. So I'm just going to export my head as MetaHuman head LOD0 as an OBJ. And I'm going to do the same to the body separately. MetaHuman body LOD0. Obviously, I've already done that. Then we're going to wrap our gorilla with the faceform wrap tool. Full disclosure, that is a paid program, but it does have a 30-day free trial, which is what I'm using. Okay, so now that we have our MetaHuman base mesh, we are going to wrap our MetaHuman mesh onto our gorilla source mesh that we want our MetaHuman to go on. So here I've imported my MetaHuman mesh there, and gorilla mesh here. Given them different colors just so that we can differentiate a little bit. Another thing I've done is I've tried to line up the eyes as best as possible. So from here, I'm going to add a point select node. It says select point pairs there. So MetaHuman in the first node, gorilla being our source in the second node. Click on the point pairs and node, and we go to sync views, which is this visual editor here, and you'll see our views are synced. And then we can turn symmetry on. I went for topological, it seemed to work the best for both left and right. Then we want to choose the synced points on both of them. So you'll see there I've picked point 1 here, and then I've selected the corresponding point on the other side there, and you see it's symmetrical, so it's selecting a point on the other side. What we want to do is we want to go through and try and find all the major landmarks. But it's not super difficult, but it is probably the most time-consuming component of the process. So now I've got my head points all selected, all the corresponding bits and pieces, and I go into the wrapping section. So it brings you back to the aligned view, And if I turn wrapping on and then I hit compute, cool. Now we've got a head, and then we can use the brush tool to smooth out and relax any areas. So if there's any pinching above the eyes, particularly I found there was a bit of mess around the ears, which I used the relax tool on, and there was a bit of misalignment with the head, which is okay. Then here we save out our OBJ wherever you want, wherever it makes sense for you. And we do the same with the body. Cool. And brush some of the nasties away again and save our geometry out. So we have a body geometry and a head geometry. Also a good place to save out your texture. So I have my new MetaHuman body my new MetaGorilla body overlaid on top of the source gorilla. Source gorilla has the textures, and down here I can transfer the textures, the source gorilla onto the UVs of my new MetaGorilla, which is the MetaHuman mesh. So back in Maya, just to recap what we've ended up with. So this is our source mesh of our gorilla. Then this guy here is our base mesh MetaHuman, which we then wrapped to our gorilla, and this is what we've ended up with. This is our MetaHuman mesh wrapped to our gorilla. So I've got a body and a face, and you'll see why when we get into the MetaHuman that we want both separate pieces. Also, just one thing to note about the arms. You'll notice if I line up my my gorilla over the source one, his arms are in a different pose. I found with the MetaHuman rigging, auto rigging, you want to get the orientation and the arm pose as close to the MetaHuman arm pose as possible. It doesn't have to be the exact same proportions, but just the same angles helps a lot. And lastly, from here I want to export my MetaHuman gorilla. I'm just going to hide these guys, and I'm going to zero out the translations on my guys here, and I want to put them in, I'm going to lean my guys forward 90 degrees so that when I export them they're Z up, which is what Unreal likes. So from here, select these, one final export. So I'm going to export selection as an OBJ or an FBX. I think I've got them as OBJs, and then going to import all this into Unreal. Back in Unreal, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to delete the MetaHuman and the char folder that we made earlier for our DCC export. We don't need any of this stuff anymore. That stuff is now super redundant. So I'm just going to delete that stuff, delete 2 folders, goodbye, yes. Okie dokie, now that that's all deleted and cleaned up, we are going to go into our contents folder and we're going to create a new folder. New folder. We're going to call this guy just simply Gorilla. And in Gorilla, we're going to create another new folder. This one's going to be called Mesh, and another folder called Textures. In here, we're going to drop our our body mesh with the adjusted arms, the head mesh. Oh, and that's it. That's all we need. We need our body mesh and our head mesh. In here, just import. Defaults are fine. Let that happen. And all I did was I just drag and dropped them from the folder into the mesh directory. And there we have it. I can double click on them and inspect. Whoop. Turn down the speed on my camera so it doesn't zip away from me so much. So there is our MetaHuman MetaGorilla head mesh. Very exciting. And here is our MetaGorilla. Again, turn my speed down on my camera. MetaGorilla body mesh with the head. And I'll show you why this is important very shortly. But you can see the texture mapping or the UV mapping looks like it's working well with the grid. Very cool. Then we're going to go back to our textures folder, and I'm going to import the head and the body texture that I exported from Faceform Wrap during that process there. So there's my face mesh, and there's my body, my face texture and my body texture. I'm just going to hit save just in case we get a crash. It has been known to happen. So here, back to our Gorilla folder. I'm then going to go through the whole process of creating another MetaHuman. So MetaHuman character. We're going to call this Gorilla. Just let that finalize. There we go. Hit save again. Double click on this guy. Here we're finally into the fun part. So here comes up, we have our what's essentially the starter mesh for MetaHuman. Here in the middle, we're going to go. We don't need to go to a preset or anything like that. We can just keep it straight up. Just work straight from here. So we're going to go to body, conform from template. Down the bottom here where it says mesh, we're going to go over to our meshes, click on our Gorilla body, and this little arrow here will load our mesh. We can leave the rest as default and hit import, and that will conform our body mesh to our Gorilla mesh, which is pretty damn cool. Look at that guy. Anyone who is coming from Maya and coming into Unreal, one of the things you're going to want to do is go into Editor Preferences, which is here, and then in the search bar type invert, and then you're going to scroll down here, and where it says invert middle mouse pan, you're going to tick that on, and then it will act just like it does in Maya, and you will love life. So pretty cool. There is our body conformed. Put the skin on. Looks very funny. Looks very weird, which I love. Nice big red lips. Bit of a weird Goomba. So you'll notice that the face doesn't quite look like the gorilla. The proportions have changed quite a bit, but the nose is still quite bulbous, where gorillas' noses are flat. They don't have the same sort of cartilage that we have, and the lips are still quite human-like, whereas gorillas do not have all this extra flesh here. So we're going to go into the head section, back to conform from template. This time we are selecting our head mesh, and loading it into the mesh down the bottom here. You can also use eye meshes and teeth meshes. Gorillas do have some more oversized teeth, but what I have found is that if I brought in the teeth at this stage, then the face rig doesn't work as well, and you get a lot of penetration through the gums and things like that. So what I found was it's better to make the MetaGorilla with the default teeth, then export the teeth and do our little adjustments to make the nice big incisors. So as a bonus down the track, I will show you the teeth update. But importantly here, we want to turn off adapt neck, and we also want to turn our alignment options to none. And then if we hit conform, there we go. There is our very sexy gorilla face. And that's pretty much all the hard work done. Once we have our MetaHuman mesh actually sculpted or wrapped to our gorilla, or whatever mesh you're trying to make, whatever character you're trying to make, that's all the hard work done. Because now it's very simply just plug and play. He is looking gorgeous. And when we go to skin, again, super hilarious. Look at that big beautiful boy. Clay view is also really nice. Now we're going to go to portrait. Portrait seems to be a nice sort of balance of light in here. Right, so now that we're now that our model is conformed and we look good, we're going to go into the skin and eyes. So down the bottom here you'll see texture override. So if you have a different texture that you would like to add that's going to work with the MetaHuman UVs, this is where you would add that. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to add one for the face, and I'm also going to add one for the body. Then I go to my textures folder that I created earlier, select my face texture, and I select that guy here, and then my body texture, put that in there too. Now our gorilla is gorilla colored. Which is super great. We can also turn his top off so we don't get that weird singlet, but he is wearing his tidy whities. Just pretty fun. Cool, so we don't have to worry about skin tone so much because we've overwritten that, but we do want to get some nicer detail in his face. So we're going to use the face texture roughness. So we're going to use the texture index filter, turn the high wrinkles onto high, and then we can slide through and find the particular roughness pattern or the wrinkles pattern that we like the most. Personally, I found that I like number 8, feels the most gorilla-like to me, especially with these more sunken under eye bags. There's another one here, 10's not bad. It's not bad. I'm going to stick with 8. And then here for the roughness, that's sort of how wet the texture looks. So wet the shine is. So if we turn that down, it gets quite shiny. If we turn it up, it gets a bit more matte. I think about 0.65 seems to be a good spot for that. Then freckles, we don't need to worry about freckles. Well, I'm not going to worry about freckles. Don't think it's going to make much difference to my guy here. Eyes. We do want to look at the eyes. It's always a good idea when you're looking at well, I was going to say gorillas, but anything really, is to check out some reference. So I'm going to try and hit this kind of color and a bit more darkness in the lead off from the iris. But they do have a lighter sclera, but their eyes do seem to be, come across as quite dark. Also, when we look at his hair color, they do get quite a little bit of red in their hair, which is pretty cool. So I think I'm going to try and keep his hair a little bit red, some white whiskers. But this is the sort of eye style I'm looking to try and emulate here. So start off with the color. I want to go a little bit more. You don't want that. You want that brown. You want that brown orange. Just going to stick that off to the side so it doesn't get super lost. Where are we? Closer in. It is an intense color on the inside there. Secondary color, it actually seems a bit lighter. This is where all the fun happens though. This is the good bit. The limbic ring, that's that section out to the side. We actually want that to be quite big. We also want to darken that up. I don't think I just want it to go black though. I want a little bit of... I'm going to darken that up quite a bit. I want it to be bigger. Where's the softness? Softness is good. How do I... oh, there we go. I'm going to make the cornea bigger so it fills more of that space. Nimbus softness. Yeah, drop that off a little bit. I'm also going to darken this one up so we get more of that blackness. I want to keep it more in the reds and the yellows. Looking a bit more animalistic, which is cool. And then the sclera, which is normally the whiter part. I want to dirty that up too a little bit more. So here's a trick without... you don't want it to look jaundice. It does look a bit more animalistic, which is great. A bit more vein intensity, yes. offsets. The red. Oh, look how great he looks just there. Just with an eye adjustment. Super cool. Although I think we're a little bit too red. Back off on the tint a little bit. Okay. Just back off on that just a teeny bit. Very cool. Very, very cool. Not going to worry about makeup or eyelashes. You can see his teeth, which I think I'll fix in at a later date. The teeth will be a bonus for another one, another time. Hair is a place where we can really get this guy looking pretty gorgeous. There we go. Got the afro. What else we got? Got the faux hawk. Oh, hello. Oh, hot. That's very sexy. Of course, there's the classic mohawk, the classic MetaHuman mohawk we love. Yeah. Ha. Mean. Ha. Hey, it looks great. Bald. Oh. No, that's not as fun. Not as fun. But I think the oh, what about the updo? Something pretty. Reminds me of E.T. when he's got the wig on. But I think the short pulled back is the one that really sings to me when we're looking at our guy here. Shaved sides. Cool, cool little sweep back. Now if we go a bit lower to the beard section. Oh yeah, hey, full beard. I don't actually mind that so much, to be honest. Full beard, the mutton chops. Yeah, I think the mutton chops are more his kind of vibe. What about the short beard? Oh, that's okay. Mutton chops way better. What about the short uneven one? Oh yeah, that works too. Pointy chin. You know what? Lots of these work. That works. What about the pencil thin? Okay. Mutton chops. Mutton chops it is. Mutton chops is the one. That's super cool. You know, that profile feels very, very gorilla-like just in there. And we can add the peach fuzz, which will give him just that little bit of fuzz all over his face. Just get a little bit more life. And I am going to add the very Imperceivable though, but the little stubble moustache, or maybe even the light one. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Into the color. Let's start with the hair. The melanin, I'm gonna make the hair a bit darker. So yeah, but what's that? 0.75, let's call it. What I do want to keep some red in there. That's a bit too much red. Mid to high threes. Yes. A few white furs, white hairs. There we go. Break it up a little bit. Very cool. He is a silverback. Same thing for the mutton chops. We will darken them up. I say for the bottom 0.75. So if we go 0.7 for the mutton chops, and then I'd say let's go 0.39 on the redness scale. So it's a little bit redder in the beard. Actually, I think that's too much. Oh yeah, 0.75, 0.33 on the redness. Yeah, actually might drop the redness off on the top. Go a little darker. What happens if I lighten him up on top? Yeah, that's cool. A little bit of white, a few white hairs in the beard. Oh, whoops, I'm messing with the wrong attribute. Roughness, whiteness. Here we go. Very fun. And then I think for the moustache we can go quite dark, 7 something. But also a lot of whiskers, a lot of white whiskers. Won't worry about putting more red into that though. But there you go. Very cool, very fun face. Hair makes a big difference. Nice eyes make a big difference. And from here, we can add his. We can put the shirt on, shirt and shorts, just to show you that that works. I don't think I love the shirt and shorts, but the parametric clothing does still work with our guy here, which is good to know. Even the other clothing, the tech wear that you can get for free from Fab, also works on this guy. Cool, but we're going to turn that off. So I'm going to save just in case. And if I go down to assembly, what I need to do is I need to rig the character. So up here we create full rig. And then what's going to happen is that Unreal is going to do some auto rigging magic. You can see down the bottom that it is thinking and doing things. And there we go. Hey presto. We'll just save and save. But this is the guy. We are rigged. We can go into the face animation and We can go to face ROM. Hit play. Here he is. Straight out of the box. Look how great that is. Boop, boop, boop. Very, very cool. Also, we can hit the body ROM, range of motion, just to see how the body's doing. Here we go, all rigged up, hands work. Now obviously there's some skinning, deformation issues around the traps, but they're pretty big traps. But I think for, you know, just out of the box solution, automatic rigging, it's done a really decent job. Plus this animation is pretty generic. It's not exactly, you know, we're not animating to preserve our skinning at all. Woo. But there's more work we can do. We can do more work on the skinning and things like that, which will which I will cover in a later video. But for now, that's our guy. From here, download textures, download our I will download our 4K textures since we want this to look a little nicer. 8K is a little extreme. Here we go, and if we go to assembly, and we go to UE Cine Complete, being Unreal Cinematic Complete, root directory is in our content folder here, which will be our MetaHumans, and it's going to be called Gorilla. I'm going to call him MetaGorilla. MetaGorilla! And hit assemble. And this will take a few minutes. Okay, so that has created our MetaHuman. I'm going to close this down. We don't need this anymore, but if we wanted to, it's still here in our gorilla. That's this guy here, and we can go back in there and do some non-destructive changes. We can delete the rig, change the model, add the teeth, do some groom updates if we want to. But right now we're going to go into our MetaGorilla folder, where we actually have our MetaHuman, our MetaGorilla blueprint, and that's what this looks like here. And there he is. Again, I'm going to change my camera speed down just so it doesn't whip around. But this is the guy in all his glory. That's our MetaHuman blueprint. He lives. And in the sequencer here, if I go back to content, create a new folder, and I call this sequence MetaG. In here I'm going to create a new level sequence called SQ MetaG Master. If I double click on that, it opens in sequencer. Here I have a blank sequence But I can go back here and I can click on my MetaGorilla, drag and drop him into sequencer, and here he is. Focus up. There's our guy. Rigged. We've got our control skeleton here. Control skeleton is working, doing all the things. Looks... Oops, excuse me. Looks like we are in business. So I need to turn all the snapping off. Thank you, Unreal, for that thing that animators do not like. So the skinning's interesting. We do a little bit of work around the traps. And Unreal does have a vertex skinning tool, but it's a little bit painful. So what I'll do in a future video is I'll take his I'll export this guy using the MetaHuman to Maya exporter, do some skinning in there, bring it back in, and show you how to transfer the weights, which is super simple, works brilliantly. There we go, we've got our IK. We even have our face rig working correctly, eyes are working, jaw is working, everything's looking cool. Alright. In fact, why don't I rotate him around so that he's a little bit more in the light. There we go. Face up. Looks good. And if I just go to my sequence and delete that, then I can just drag and drop our guy into the scene, center him up, and there he is. Looking gorgeous. So, just to recap, we have taken our base MetaHuman mesh, wrapped it to a gorilla mesh, and then built a MetaGorilla with the MetaHumanCreator that we can use for our animation projects. Cool. Hey, like and subscribe for more, and I will add some bonus content for skinning weights, animating, and adjusting our MetaGorilla from this point on. Hope you learned something, hope you had fun, and I'll catch you later. Bye.